Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike O'Brien, and this video is the 1 month later review of the Garmin Vivomove Style. So I've been wearing this every single day for the past month to review it for you guys, and honestly, I have some really big updates here. Now, if you've seen any of my previous 1 month later reviews for any other device, you might know that they're usually kind of heavy on the con side. So most of that is just because when you're using something every day for a month, what you notice most is things that don't work. Now, on this device, on the flip side, actually, I had more cons before than I do now. So wearing this for a month actually ironed out some of the cons that I thought were problems, and they kind of either I got used to them, they stopped being cons, or there's like any kind of updates. Like it did get better, and I like this watch now more than I did before, but I'm still going to explain to you what the pros and cons are in this video. So if you're considering buying this, you want to know what these are. If you did buy this, you also want to know what the pros and cons are and how I got around the cons and how they're not problems anymore. So starting off with the first con, and I said this in the original video, this is that the hands actually don't glow in the dark, which is a really subtle thing right there. Maybe you wouldn't notice when you're first wearing it, but when you walk into a dark shadow or a dark room, or if it's nighttime, you won't see the watch at all. Like you won't be able to see the hands. But what I did realize, getting over to a pro here, is that you can actually rearrange the widgets within the app. And when you rearrange them, the first thing that I have right now at the very top of my widgets is just the time. So when I go and swipe through, the first widget I see tells me the time on the AMOLED screen, which totally solves that problem as long as the battery is alive. So that brings me into another pro. So back-to-back pros here. The battery on this watch is actually really impressive. So while the AMOLED screen does last about 4 days is usually what I'm getting, maybe 5 if I'm lucky. So that's a decent battery life there. But what I really like is that even when that dies, the watch, like the analog part of it, still works. So I believe it's actually a totally separate battery, or else it's just a battery reserve that uses very little. But regardless, the analog watch here lasts as long as you need it to. I've gone 5 days without charging this back up, and it works totally fine. So that's a really, really nice thing to have. Getting over to a con, this one is actually a con that I haven't really worked around yet, and this is the music controls. Now, everything on this watch seems to sync up fairly quickly and be pretty much up to speed with everything. Notifications, quick replies, everything I do except for music. And I'm not really sure why this is. I've tried Google Play Music, I've tried Spotify, I've tried different things, and I'll notice that especially, on Spotify, for example, that's what I listen to most. If I skip to the next song, it doesn't always show the song title here. So sometimes it lags by several songs. Sometimes it doesn't even show the song title. If I tap play and pause on this, the first time I tap it, it does work, so I can pause it. But if I tap it again, it says it's playing on the watch, but it isn't playing on my phone. So there's some kind of small disconnect there, a little kind of a bug in their connection there. But regardless, it's one small drawback. Again, I don't really use my watch to control music that much anyway. Now, back to the pro side, something I really like about this watch is the aesthetic of it. So I wear a lot of watches, guys. I review watches for you guys, and sometimes people compliment them, sometimes they don't. This one got a lot of compliments. A lot of people were really, really impressed by this watch, and a lot of people said it looked really nice, really expensive. It looked like a really high-end watch. And then when I showed them that it had a screen behind there, their minds were blown. They thought it was an amazing watch, and everybody asked where they could buy it. So when I say everybody, it was probably like maybe 8 or 9 people over the past month, which is a lot. That's a lot more than I usually get for a watch, just being in public. But so that's one thing there. The comfort is also another pro. So I like how small and lightweight this is. I talked about it before. People think it's a con that it's light. I think it's a huge pro. Having a lighter watch that still does everything you want means it's less noticeable. It doesn't flop around if you twist your wrist like that. It's really not in the way ever, and I really like it overall. The comfort of this watch, like I said, it just feels great. You don't even notice it's on your wrist, and you can wear it for as long as you need to. One drawback, and this is obviously not with every band, but with this one right here, if you get the woven nylon band, a small drawback is it kind of does retain a little bit of water, so it'll feel wet or damp. If you take a shower with this, or if you get it wet, it'll feel wet or damp for, 30 minutes to an hour, like depending on where you are. If it's really humid, it might be longer. If it's really dry, it's obviously going to dry off a lot quicker, but it does retain some water. A quick aside, guys, if you're new here and have not yet subscribed, but you're considering buying this watch, you might also want to consider subscribing to my channel because I have a lot of new videos coming out. Really big month, late January, early February. I have so many videos planned, and I have like lots of different watches and earbuds. So if you guys want to see that, make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon. Otherwise, YouTube won't tell you when I release these videos. So a pro for this watch, which originally I thought was a con, that it didn't have quick replies. The pro is it does have quick replies. I just didn't realize before that when the message pops up, I was expecting like the options to show up there too. But what you have to do is when the message pops up, you tap on the message and it'll say, do you want to dismiss this or do you want to do a quick reply? And so you have maybe 5 or 6 quick replies that you can send out for like text messages, for example. And it's a great way to have to, not have to take your phone out, which I said this before. I think that's kind of a big purpose of having a hybrid watch is to kind of separate yourself from your phone, to be present a little bit more, not to use like a really new agey term like that. But, if somebody's talking and you want to you're listening to them, and then if you get like a really important notification, you can just quickly reply there and say like, I'm sorry, I'm busy right now, or okay, or no, you know what I mean? So you don't have to do the thing where you take your phone out and it's just embarrassing and awkward, right? A little bit, if you're in a meeting, for example, that's when I would be using that. So a con then, unfortunately, the touchscreen on this, I think it's because it's so far back. It's kind of just a very different layout for a touchscreen. It doesn't act as standard as you would think. And this is kind of a con that I overcame, but it's not as responsive as you would expect. Sometimes you don't know exactly where to tap on here to get different things. So if it shows up with like text above and below the hands, do you tap on the bottom, the top, or the middle? And so it can be a little bit confusing there. But the good thing is, once you wear this more and more, eventually you learn how to use it a little bit better. And I don't really have any problems with the touchscreen at all anymore. I just kind of got used to where to tap. Now, one small drawback though that I guess I do still have a problem with is some orientations you can't turn the watch on. So if I'm like laying on my back and I look at my watch, it doesn't register as that that I picked up my watch because I'm in like a weird different orientation. And when I do that, it doesn't always turn on. So I wish there was a physical button. Even if I double tap it then, sometimes it doesn't turn on for some reason. And again, maybe that's just something I'll overcome in the next couple weeks as I continue to use this. But for right now, that's like one small extra drawback there. Back to the pros, talking about more of the fitness part of this watch. So I really do like the workout accuracy. Yes, it doesn't use GPS. It can use connected GPS, of course. But if you're using this just as a pedometer, it actually does a pretty good job, especially once you're able to calibrate it. It has a really nice calibration where you like run a set amount of distance that it tracks that, you tell it how far it ran, and you don't have to go and like measure your stride with a ruler. You actually just run and it tells you, if you say I ran exactly 1 lap on a track, and it'll know how many steps you took, and it calculates everything internally, which I think is really nice. So workout accuracy seems to be very good. The heart rate accuracy is accurate enough for my purposes. I talked about that in my comparison to the Fossil HR. So it's definitely not the best, but it's definitely good enough for workouts. You'll know approximately what your heart rate is, maybe plus or minus 2 or 3 beats per minute. The body battery then. This is something that I have actually come to kind of appreciate. Originally, I said the body battery seemed a little bit more like a mood ring, seemed like kind of a thing that would tell you something that wasn't really that meaningful. And I talked to the folks at Garmin, and they actually told me that it's something that kind of has to learn you a little bit more. So after you wear it for about a week or 2 weeks, it starts to figure out what your patterns are, and it starts to become more and more accurate. And by now, it shows me pretty accurately if I didn't sleep well at night, if I worked out the day before, it goes down and it goes up higher the next day. And so it does have some science behind there. It actually does make sense, and I did find it relatively useful. If I'm especially tired one day, I can go and it kind of mashes a lot of variables together to show you generally how much energy it thinks you have right now. So you can look at that and say like, why am I tired right now? Did I not sleep well? Or did I just drain like too much energy yesterday and didn't sleep enough? And you can really kind of figure out a little bit more. It's just a different way to interpret your health analytics is what I'm saying. So rather than just looking at everything independently, it combines them, makes it easier to read. And I do like that. Now, speaking of that, the app itself is another pro. I said this before, and I love the app, guys. I think it's a really, really well-made app. It's really easy to look at, very digestible. You go down, all your information is there. You can customize it to have different information there. Shows you different days. You have so many different graphs you can look at. And so if you're trying to really hone in on your health, this is a great way to do that. I think this app is really incredible. And so this watch works very well for that. Now, I think the last con I want to talk about is the charging of this watch, and this is obviously not a con for everybody, but for me, I have so many wires. I've just got wires everywhere. I have so many chargers for different watches, different devices, like all this stuff I review, I have chargers for all of this, and I really do wish that this thing would charge with like wireless charging or something very standard that I could just plop it on there, charge it, and not have to worry about losing the specific little like 8-inch Garmin wire. So I understand that for most people this is not a drawback, but for me, I mean, one of my great characteristics is that I tend to lose charging cables, and so losing this can get annoying. So I'm sure I will lose it eventually. I haven't really lost it yet for more than like an hour at a time, but it's gonna happen eventually. So maybe I'll be buying one on eBay, maybe I'll just buy another one from Garmin, who knows. So guys, that's everything I have for you in this video. If you like this watch, if you bought it or didn't buy it, make sure you comment down below and let me know why, or if you have questions, that's a great spot for that as well. If you liked this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram if you are interested. It's kind of not really tech review. It's more like a personal blog, like I travel around and stuff. But if you want to see that, maybe follow me on Instagram. I'll put the link right there. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.